April 30th, 1937, the body of Gibbon Copley was found in the Tug River, which divides West Virginia and Kentucky. So this story caught my attention, and I looked into it, of course. But like a lot of stories, as you start looking into it, it just opens up other doors to other stories. And the whole thing became interesting, but very sad. So I want to share with you the story of the Copley family of Thacker, West Virginia. The 1920 census said that Gibbon lived at home with his family, his father Albert and his mother Polly, and his 4 siblings. His father Albert's mother was from Ireland, and it seemed that his father Albert worked in the mines as mine support. His mother Polly was born in Logan, West Virginia, that had previously just been Virginia a few years before. So census said that they lived on Thacker Holler Road, which, if you recall, is the same area that crazy Jim Vance from the Hatfield-McCoy feud also lived in that area. It's a very small, remote area near Matewan, West Virginia. There's not a whole lot out there. So what makes this story interesting? Well, let's get to that. Albert and Polly had 4 children. And of course, the first thing I start to look at is birth and death dates. And I see some early ones here. Gibbon, obviously, is what drew me here. Mystery of a Thacker boy's death cleared by confession. Williamson, April 30th. A fight which ended with a fatal blow from a beer bottle was described today by prosecutor Chafin in announcing 19-year-old Joe Billiter admitted killing his chum Gibbon Copley, 22. Chafin, who said Billiter would be turned over to Kentucky authorities, told of a drinking party last week under a cliff on the Kentucky side of the Tug River. Copley's body was discovered in the river later, and the physician said his neck had been broken before he was placed in the water. Chafin said Billiter claimed he struck Copley in self-defense after his friend attacked him with a knife. The prosecutor quoted Billiter saying, "Copley's mouth did not work and he did not breathe. I waited 10 minutes and then I carried his body to the river. I did not intend to kill him, but just to knock him out." He went on to say that he was told that while the men were drinking together, Copley had remarked about having a date with Billiter's 16-year-old wife. The prosecutor notified Pike County officers and said prosecution would rest with them since Copley and Billiter were in Kentucky at the time. Both young men resided at Thacker on the West Virginia side of the river. Beckley Post-Herald, Beckley, West Virginia, Saturday, May 1st, 1937. So let's take a look at Gibbon's death certificate. He's 22. His parents, Albert and Polly. Basically a broke neck, trauma of 5th with dislocation. That would be his neck. So I can see the words fractured, struck with fist, I think it says. So I had first come across these graves, I think last fall, when me and Leo did a video on Buskirk Cemetery. And I had commented then that it looks like there's a lot of young sibling deaths. But at the time I couldn't find anything about the deaths. I guess I've gotten a little better at finding things, because now I've circled back around and found out how all 3 siblings died. So Gibbon also had a brother named John. Now if you look, John died about 15 or 16 years old. Well, when I looked him up, I had a really hard time finding John, but after a lot of searching, I finally found out that he actually drowned. I'm not sure why he drowned, but he was also in the Tug River. Then we come to Mabel. Mabel was 23 or 24 years old when she died. I found her here in census about a year and a couple months before she died. And I found her living with her sister in Logan, West Virginia. They actually have the last name wrong. That's Musick, M-U-S-I-C-K. It's Ada and Evander Musick. Here's a Mabel Musick, which would be their daughter. So she must have named her daughter after her sister. Anyways, here's Mabel Copley, 22-year-old sister-in-law, and she seems to be living with them before she died. So how did she die? I found that a couple years before she died, she'd got married to a man with the last name Rhodes. So her living with her sister a year before she died, they must have maybe broke up, because she's also buried with the last name of Copley. She's not buried with her married name, but her death certificate is in her married name, Mrs. Mabel Rhodes, 23 years old and 4 months. Thacker, Albert and Polly are her parents, and it seems, unfortunately, she died of burns of chest, back, and right arm. So it seems she was burned on August 14th, and she also died the same day. So there wasn't an onset, like a few days where she struggled. That must have been really severe. And it's down here, it says burns, 3rd degree burn. So out of 4 children Albert and Polly had, 1 died of burns, 1 was murdered, and 1 drowned. So how about Ada, the last sister? Well, Ada died at 67. So I guess she lived a little bit longer than everyone else. It also seems that Polly died in her 90s. Well, Albert died in his 90s, and Polly died at 73 to 74 years old. So I'm glad I got a chance to circle back around and tell the story of this family and make them a little bit more than just some faceplates laying in a cemetery in Buskirk, Kentucky. Now we know a little bit more about the Copley family. And I think we all have a little bit more to be thankful for today, because it can always get worse.
This right here is the Buskirk. I'm in Buskirk, Kentucky. This is actually the cemetery where Sid Hatfield is buried as well. The Copleys, if we're right, if we have the right spot, Heather and I are thinking that the graves we're looking for should be over here near Sid Hatfield. I have no clue what these things are. They got little white thing on their butts. They're just flying all over the place. Thousands of them. They look like bees, but they're not. I don't know what they are. But it's been raining. Grass is wet. And we're expecting some thunderstorms here in a couple hours. It's supposed to get rain for a couple days. Heavy thunderstorms. Now I'm thinking we're right over there in that area. And that's where Sid is. He's right over there as well. Adams. Telford, Christy Hope, Adams, Triplet. Okay, it is back that way. All right. Stevens. Just in case anybody's curious, this is how this stuff goes a lot of the times. You know, you go out and you look until you find it. You know, you might have to move a little poison ivy. And right now, Burleson. It looks like this one's tore up. You can't read anything on it. Which the ones I'm looking for are actual stones. Stump, Willis, Edwards. Tough one to find, huh? And there's, like I said, there's Mayor Testerman, and Sid Hatfield himself is right there. And you can see there's a couple new ones here and a new one there. That one says Betty White and John White. This one's a child here. You can see the little short grave. Williams. Okay, we checked that side. Johnson, Stafford, Willis, trying to see if I see any Copleys from here. Well, it took me a while, guys. It took me probably a solid hour of roaming graveyard, you know, looking at headstones, looking for any Copleys at all. And I've been up here, look at this, look at my shirt. That's how hot. My hat is dripping, look at that. It's hot today and humid, and the thunderstorms are on their way. But we found them. It took me a while. It took a little bit of effort, guys, but I found them. Right here is Gibbon Copley. Killed at 22 years old over a silly joke. And here's Mabel Conley. And there's Gibbon. Let me let that off a little bit better. 1915 to 1937. Mabel Conley, 1906 to 1930. And here's John, drowned at 17 years old. Kind of ironic, isn't it? Gibbon was killed and thrown in the river, and John drowned, presumably in the same river. It's about the only body water nearby. And here's some more family. This is Polly Harris Copley, 1877 to 1951. Albert Copley, 1867 to 1961. They're all right here together in this one little bitty spot, and I walked right by them several times. The markers, they were covered in grass. I had to clear the grass off. I just saw a couple random markers, wiped the grass off of them. There was a Copley. Look next to it, there's the rest of the Copley family. They're all here. Tragic story, isn't it? You know, their poor mother. I mean, imagine that, losing two sons, you know, that close together. Anyway, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed our little story today. But anyhow, y'all keep us in mind, and you know, feel free to subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And we'd sure love to have you. We appreciate you guys watching. But here rests the Copley family.